I'd like to ask the Minister for Education, Sport and Culture whether the standard of meals provided to primary schools is appropriate, how the winter menu meets healthy eating food standards, and what proportion of meals are A, freshly prepared by schools using Manx produce, and B, reheated from frozen.
On the Minister for Education, Sport and Culture.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Department follows the UK Government guidelines for school food standards. This was introduced to help children develop healthy eating habits and to encourage them to choose from a wide range of food options throughout the school week. All recipes within our winter menu for Ireland primary school meals are compliant with the School Food Standards Guide. The Department applies the following recommendations in every primary school. Fresh fruit is available daily, salad bar is available daily, wholemeal bread and fresh drinking water are also available daily. Meal items are low in salt and sugar. Meal items are not deep fried. Polyunsaturated and monounsaturated fats are used in our recipes. Any jar-based sauces must comply with the School Food Standards guidelines. Fruit and milk-based desserts are available daily. These give children a natural energy boost whilst also increasing fruit and fibre intake. In addition to this, all primary school meals are portion controlled following the recommended daily intake guidelines within the SFS guide. With regard to the portion of the meals that are freshly prepared using Manx products, cooking kitchens, of which there are 10, use local butchers for a majority of their meat products, excluding chicken. Demi-kitchens, food is cooked by a local company using the same recipes and local meats as the cooked kitchens. Beef burgers, sausages, mince, beef, chuck beef, ham, pork, turkey, beef joints for roasting. All other products are frozen and supplied by a local company. We are still at a relatively early stage following the transfer of catering from DHSC, but the significant changes we have made to remove many frozen products and replace them with freshly made items, i.e. beef hot pots, gratin bakes instead of pastries and frozen burger products. The need to strike a balance between nutrition, choice, of course, the cost of producing menu items. Still developing the service and welcome input from parents and children alike. Demi-kitchen food is cooked by Gourmet Foods based in Peel and reheated in schools using the same recipes and local products used in cooking centres. Frozen menu items are also all supplied from Robinson's wholesalers under a procurement contract. Dietary and allergen food items are also supplied by Robinson's and Against the Grain, another local company where we get support and information on new products.
Supplementary, Mrs. Caine.
Thank you, Mr. President. I thank the Minister for his very detailed answer, and I'm pleased to learn that the beef and lamb products and the freshly made dishes are from local produce. However, looking at the winter menu, there are fried potato products served twice weekly and a whole scutch of very sweet, very possibly high-fat sweet desserts that are frankly not necessary. And you're saying you're wanting to instill good habits of healthy eating in people, and yet daily you're serving them fudge tart and hot chocolate sauce, or warm waffles, or chocolate crunch cake, sticky toffee pudding, chocolate brownie. It's frankly not necessary. And when you're saying you're still reviewing it, will he undertake to review the level of sweet menu choices and increase the level of fresh fruit and perhaps healthy yoghurt?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. President. I thought I said that we do supply yoghurt and fresh fruit daily. So to say will we do, it's already there, it's all portion controlled. The department is reviewing this, and I must say there is none of these items that are deep fried. The honourable member said they're deep fried. We don't have deep fryers in there, so the information she has got is incorrect. What I would say to the honourable member is that if she wants to visit some of the secondary schools, for instance, to see changes that have happened regarding school meals since it's been transferred from Health to the Department of Education, Sport and Culture, I would suggest that she actually calls up at either St Ninians or Ballacameen and asks the staff up there.
On the Deputy Speaker, Mr Robert Shaw.
Thank you, Mr President. We've had so much detail this morning, Mr President. I'm beginning to think somebody's going to wander around and take food orders in a minute. But, I just want to ask the Minister, Mr President, about his reference to school food standard guidelines. Are they ours, the UK's, and have they been reviewed recently? And does he think we ought to keep a close eye on it?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr President. They are the UK guidance that we are following. And yes, these things will be reviewed. One of the things previously was the quality of the foods that were getting served in the secondary schools. And we also have to be aware, as in the cost, many of our schools had the kitchens removed, so they're a reheat. So to try and reintroduce kitchens into some of the schools could be quite expensive. And also if we were to prepare food daily on an individual basis for some of these schools, I'm sure that the price of these meals would significantly increase. But we are trying to improve the quality of the meals in the schools.
Member for Council, Mrs Sharp.
Thank you, Mr President. I'd like to ask the Minister, why is it that when tap water is considered a perfectly adequate accompaniment to a school meal in primary school, does his department then go on to start offering sweet sugary drinks to children once they go to high school? And by sweet sugary drinks, I am including flavoured water.
Minister to reply.
Thank you, Mr President. It's a choice that it is for the young people to have. And like previous honourable members, one of the honourable members said, in secondary schools, they can leave the school at lunchtime and go into any town centre and get whatever food they want, or they can bring that food into schools. So children who have got packed lunches can bring those sugary drinks in anyway. We are reviewing the waters that are in at the school, but part of that will mean that there will be a cost of installing water fountains.
Honourable Member for Garff, Mrs Caine.
Thank you, Mr President. If I thank the Minister for his offer to see the now devolved catering that's gone back to the secondary schools, but I'd ask, would he ensure that all the primary schools who are able and wanting to take back control and make their own freshly prepared school dinners every day, that can be accommodated by the department?
Minister to reply.
Thank you, Mr President. I thought I'd answered that question previously when I said some of these schools don't have cooking kitchens, and to install a cooking kitchen will come at a considerable cost. The additional staffing cost could be quite significant for those schools to start producing that food, and then we'll be looking at maybe some families struggling to afford that meal because of the additional cost. We are aware that the Department for Enterprise have previously supported companies to try and help them fill this gourmet food type item where they pre-make the food to send out to the schools. So they are at a good standard.
Honourable Member for Ramsey, Dr Allinson.
Thank you, Mr President. Would the Minister agree that by publicising the use of Manx produce, he's actually giving a very good lesson to the children who are eating it? This is something they should encourage in their own households.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr President. Yes, the amount of local produce has actually increased in our schools since the department took it over.
Honourable Member for Council, Miss August Hanson.
Thank you, Mr President. I wondered, following some of the Minister's answer, if he might perhaps need additional funding then in that case to meet similar standards met by the school food standards in the UK?
Minister to reply.
Thank you, Mr President. We are following those standards at the moment, so the food that's there is actually meeting the same standards as I was referring to.
Honourable Member Mrs Sharp.
Thank you, Mr President. The Minister says that supplying fresh drinking water in high schools would come at a cost because there has to be the installation of water coolers, etc. But could he not just look at installing a tap in schools where children could fill their reusable water bottles?
Reply, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't know whether the honourable member knows, but schools do have taps already.
Remember Mrs. Caine.
Thank you, Mr. President. Could I ask the Minister, out of the 22 schools provided meals for reheating by the local companies, whether any of them do have the facility to prepare and cook their own meals? Because it's not exactly turkey Twizzlers, but fried or not, the number of chicken goujons, chicken burger, chicken chunks, vegetable nuggets, burger in bat and pizza, it's not exactly enhancing the experience of school meals for a lot of children. And in fact, several times during the week, they are also given a fruit juice or a milkshake, which is additional unnecessary sugar, and perhaps coaching them ready to have sweet sugary drinks when they do go on to secondary school.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's interesting the members got the interest in the food, and the department is very keen to move this along. We've had the catering passed back to the department in the last year, and we're hoping that we will be able to make further improvements in the years to come. But to try and suddenly change everything over from contracts that had been agreed for a number of years, we have to go through that process. We are working with the schools. The issue that we would have is if we put all the catering back to every primary school is that if somebody goes off sick, who's going to be there to try and recruit extra people at short notice? It all comes at additional cost. With having it centralised, we're actually reducing that cost because we've got one central place where we can actually have the staff to try and relocate them. But what we are doing is reviewing the menus, and from taking over from secondary schools and moving through onto primary schools, the department is carrying out a considerable amount of changes in such a short period.
Miss August Hanson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Can I ask, does the department therefore, because you talked, Minister, an awful lot about the improvements that are being made, does the department actually have a strategy for improvement? And if so, would he be able to share it with members in it?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. President. When the department took over the catering, we appointed a new catering manager. We are not fully staffed at those positions yet. The overall cost has reduced of management since it was in health, and we are trying to move things forward. We haven't got that strategy sorted out yet because some of the schools we've got to do an assessment on the cooking equipment that is in there and whether it's suitable for any changes.
Final supplementary, Mrs. Caine.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to ask the Minister, the previous answer he gave in another place on the 26th of February to a written question suggested that the management team for catering was at £100,000. Can he clarify, was that when it was at health and not when it's currently with the department? But also, his main objection seems to be for those primary schools who have the facilities and would be willing to have the school meals made freshly on the premises. People got sick previously, and for many years prior to it being centralised, all the primary schools happily managed to cater perfectly adequately for their schools, often using very local produce butchers and suppliers, and keeping a whole community engaged in both feeding the children and also given the element of being able to grow your own vegetables and then cook them in the kitchen. So will he confirm the cost of the management in this and give an undertaking that those schools who want to take back responsibility for their own catering can do so if and when the centralised contracts are finished? Thank you.
Minister to reply.
Thank you, Mr. President. The cost that was given in the answer was a transfer cost. We have not operated. That was a budgeted transfer cost, so the actual cost is actually below the £100,000 that we've got there now. What the honourable member is asking us to do is actually significantly increase our budgets. If the honourable member can advise me now which schools she has spoken to who said that they would wish to take back catering, I'd appreciate if she could give me that answer now so I can make some inquiries regarding this. But ultimately, when we start looking at each school going through a procurement process, the chances are you are going to increase the overall cost, because at the moment, through the procurement process with health, we are able to negotiate a cheaper price for that product. I would ask the honourable member, is she asking that we should actually have an increase in that budget by allowing each individual school to procure on an individual basis?